Okay, so this semester's first guest is Mr. Simon de Pury. He is, for me, the glam rock auctioneer. He has a glorious artistic art market career. So he has a great book. I spent 2 full days reading some paragraphs twice, actually. It's a wonderful story, and it's a wonderful trajectory for those who are interested to work in the art market. So thank you for accepting this invitation, Mr. Dupuy. It was something which really I will never ever dream of, because I just write a message to Mr. Dupuy on the phone number that was provided on his website, and in the next day everything was set. So this efficient, fast, and so kind reply. I thank again for all this. Now, I want to start first of all a question and also a statement of you that that influenced me. You said that I haven't chosen a profession, but I chosen a way of life. So tell me a bit about that. So a brief introduction of how you've been an auctioneer.
How long I've been an auctioneer? Yes, well, forever is the answer. I mean, for 50 years. And I started in the art market 50 years ago. But when you say, yes, that I did not choose a profession, but a way of life, it's probably true, because I grew up in Basel in Switzerland. And while it's a very small city in Switzerland, it's a city which always was devoted to art and culture. And on the social strata of Basel, art was always at the pinnacle. So already as a small kid, my parents used to bring me to the museums and so on. And so all the passions that I have today, I developed them as a teenager. So I'm obsessed with art, but I'm also obsessed with music, pop music, rock, hip hop, dance, football, and all of these different things. And basically, all these passions stayed with me. And I'm very lazy by nature. And so if you're lazy, the only way to still do something is to do something that you enjoy. And so luckily, I'm interested in all of these different areas so that I never have the feeling that I'm working.
Great. Mr. Dupuy, recently the Nobel laureate in economics was declared. Sorry, could you shut up? Could you close your microphones? Sorry about that. Please close your microphones, students. Okay. My question is the following. Paul Milgram and Robert Wilson obtained the Nobel Prize in Economics on auction theory. And so these are theorists working in their offices, designing and discussing about how auctions are performed. So what do you think? Do you think the theory designed in economics office could fit the auctions? Especially, how often do you experience? Have you experienced winners curse in auctions? Competitors, especially two competitors, ending up paying too much for a work. It happened very often.
Well, I was fascinated to read a few days ago that the Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded to two scholars who had, specialized on auction theory. I have not been able to find out what their theories are and how it does apply to the art market, and I would be obviously very interested to find out more about it. But what is extraordinary about auctions, first of all, they have existed since ever. It's a very old system of selling artworks and in a way of letting the market regulate itself. But besides being an auctioneer, I also am a private dealer, and I have always been fascinated when you sell a work privately, i.e. you offer it directly to somebody who's a prime contender. The only way you can justify the price that you're asking for it is by comparing it to similar works of art that have been sold on the open market in the recent past. And of course, every artwork is different from another. Therefore, estimating an artwork is not an exact science. Now, when I offer you, for instance, an artwork, and let's say I offer it to you at a given price, you will tell me, oh, this is ridiculous. This is absurd. You're asking me far too much. I'm not prepared to pay this price. And if then this same work comes up for auction and you think this is your last chance to get this work, you will start bidding on this work. And then quite soon you will reach the level that I had offered it to you at, and you will happily go above this level that you had told me before was a crazy level that you were not prepared to pay. Because suddenly, while you are competing against other contenders, you know very well that unless you make up your mind right now at that very millisecond, the artwork will be gone. And the fact that you see that other people like you want this artwork just as much as you do will encourage you to go above the level that you had fixed yourself in your head before. And that's the beauty of auctions, is that it creates that competition. I also know some important collectors who told me that they will never go and bid for a work unless they see that there are 2 or 3 other people bidding against them. Because if nobody bids against them, they are worried. They feel, my God, if I'm alone to want this work, maybe this work is not so good, or maybe there's something wrong with this work. I remember way back in my early years at Sotheby's, there was a client who was very keen to buy a Matisse in an auction, and it was a stunning bouquet of flowers, but really a beautiful, gorgeous Matisse. And so I gave all the information to this client, and he knew everything that he would need to know about this particular work and how it fitted in Matisse's overall oeuvre. So he told me, yes, I am convinced that I do want to buy it. And he asked me to arrange the telephone line and to follow the auction directly. And I was not the auctioneer, there was another auctioneer. And so I had this client on the telephone. The auction started, and very, very quickly, it stopped with him and nobody else was bidding against him. So he got it for far less than he had been prepared to pay for it. And so the hammer came down, and I thought this man must be thrilled because he got his Matisse and he had to pay far less than he was prepared to pay. And then this man was really upset at me. He said, listen, I'm really so disappointed. I wanted to have much more excitement for my money. I really wanted to have real competition. What does this mean that nobody was bidding against me? I guess now in hindsight, I'm sure this gentleman is very, very happy that he bought this work and that he bought it as well. I've never seen this particular Matisse come back onto the market, but if it did, this gentleman would be overjoyed with the financial performance of his purchase. But just shows the human psychology, how we react. We want something that other people want as well.
Exactly. I think psychology is quite important in these issues, and trying to create also an hype around a painting. So I want to ask your personal view about what happened around Salvator Mundi auction. What do you think about this auction organized at Christie's in, I guess, in November 27?
Well, it was a very exciting auction to follow. I was at Christie's in their main sale room that night. And it was, of course, an auctioneer's dream. And I saw the chief auctioneer of Christie's, UC Pilkanen, giving a masterful performance. And I don't know how many minutes the whole thing lasted, but it lasted a very, very long time. And the one record kept being smashed after the other. First, it was the record of the highest artwork ever sold at auction. Then it became the world record of any work of art sold at all. And eventually it sold for 450 million US dollars. And the whole room was aghast. I mean, was in a state of amazement. And then, like always happens after a world record is broken, the whole audience was in rapturous applause. So the marketing that Christie's had done on this artwork was formidable. There was a very impressive campaign because, you know, when I started in the art market, I always thought, you know, great art doesn't need any marketing. It sells itself. A masterwork is a masterwork, and there's nothing else you need to add to it. But in the world of today, all the people who have a lot of wealth are very, very busy, are very solicited from all over the place. And so you have to make sure not only that they are aware that a major artwork is being sold and offered on a certain day, but you must make sure that on that day, they will be at least, if they are not in the sale room, that they will be at the end of a computer or at the end of a telephone line, and that they will want to participate in the action. Christie's had done a beautiful video showing what the painting looked like if you were the painting yourself, i.e. the camera was directed towards the viewers of the painting. And I think it was a 4-minute video clip, and you saw all the people looking at the Leonardo da Vinci. Some of them, there was a nun who began to cry looking at it. You saw Leonardo DiCaprio looking at it, and many, many more people all coming to look at this work. And it was actually amazing to once look at what it must be like if you are a very popular painting yourself and you suddenly see hundreds of people walking by and looking at you. And anyway, so and then of course there were lots of discussions about the work itself, about its importance, about its state of conservation, about its history, and about its provenance, and so on. Now with old master paintings, it's more difficult to fully establish, you know, the authenticity or the provenance of an artwork. Of course, you can do it. There are great specialists, and the main specialists on Leonardo da Vinci all had given their thumbs up on this work. But it's only from the mid-19th century onwards that you have really full documentation on the artworks that are being made, and for when they change hands, for how much money they change hands, and so on. And so you have, you don't have attribution issues when you buy 20th century work, because it's pretty clear. Either it's an authentic work, and so it's not like with old master paintings. You often have attributions that change, so they can move upwards, which is very, very good, but an artwork can sometimes also be de-attributed, which from the market perspective is less good. But this painting is part of a category which is the ultimate trophies. And there are very few ultimate trophies that ever become available on the open market. And if and when such a trophy does become available, anything is possible. So it's impossible to predict what such a trophy may sell for, because you have only a small amount of people in the world who are prepared to spend more, let's say, than $300 million on a single artwork. And amongst those who are able to spend $300 million plus on a single artwork, you even have a smaller group that are then, you know, not only able to do it, but want to do it. And so the competition is amongst that small group of individuals, which is the exact top of the pyramid of the art market. I always say the top of the pyramid is the people paying these world record prices. The bottom of the pyramid is eBay, which is millions and millions and millions of people around the world who every single day participate in auctions and buy artworks or buy objects that sometimes are just priced at $20 or $25 a piece.
So you haven't surprised that this auction was undertaken with the pop artists together with Andy Warhol, Basquiat works. You were not surprised that it was not presented within an old masters sale? I mean, there were some.
Yes, I thought it was a stroke of genius of Christie's, and the person who needs to be credited is a gentleman called Loïc Gouzer, who came up with the idea of putting it into their main contemporary art evening sale, because the art market consists of maybe more than 88 different collecting categories. This goes from, tapestries to needleworks to musical instruments. You have so many different categories, and each category has a market in itself. Now, the most lucrative part by far of the global art market is the contemporary art market. And that's where you have the heavy hitters, that's where you have the high net worth individuals who follow it most closely. So therefore, to put this work into a contemporary sale was certain to already, right from the start, attract a much more affluent audience than if you did put it into a specialized old master painting sale. Up to the 1950s, old masters were the biggest category of the art market, was the most lucrative area. Then in 1958, an auction took place, which was the Goldschmidt collection of Impressionist paintings that was sold at Sotheby's in London. And there, a lot of world records were broken. And from that moment on, up to about 5 to 10 years ago, Impressionist and modern art became the most lucrative part of the art market. And since 5 or 10 years, the most lucrative part of the art market is the contemporary art market. And that's a question basically of availability, because even with all the money in the world, you could no longer do the best old masters collection in the world. Simply too many masterworks are now in public collections, in museum collections, from which they will not re-emerge. Same thing can be said about Impressionist and modern masters. It is more difficult, and there are less ultimate trophies in those categories showing up on the market. Whereas in contemporary art, if you have a lot of money, you can put the best collection together in the world, and you can put the best collection for generations to come. And so you have that availability of great works. And that's ultimately what creates a market. That is why the contemporary art market will remain, in my view, the driving factor of the international art market. It will remain the most lucrative part of the international art market for the next 10 to 15 years at least.
So, and how about the auction in October 2017 or 18 about Banksy's shredded work? Were you in London at that night? What do you think about this event?
Yes, I was in London that night, but I was not inside the auction room as opposed to the Salvator Mundi. But what I think it's a stroke of brilliance of Banksy, who is the best self-marketeer that there is, because every time a new artwork by Banksy shows up somewhere in the world, it always is accompanied by incredible kind of publicity coup. And so having that work shredded in front of an incredulous crowd of collectors was brilliant. Now, particularly that work, which exists in a number of different versions. So it made the shredded one much more unique than the other versions that are not shredded. And you have the whole documentary evidence of the shredding happening in real time and the people being in awe and amazement when it was happening. So I thought it was just a very, very clever marketing ploy.